The train station at midnight is a lonely place, especially for a 10-year-old boy with no money, no family, and nowhere to go. Ramesh sat on a cold stone bench, watching families pass by, mothers holding children's hands, fathers buying tickets, sisters sharing snacks. He had nothing. His pockets were empty, his stomach was empty, his heart was emptier still. Orphaned at 8, he had spent 2 years moving from relative to relative, each one finding a reason to send him away. Too many mouths to feed, can't afford another child. He's not our responsibility. Now he was alone. A vendor passed by selling hot samosas. The smell made Ramesh's head spin with hunger. He had no money, not a single rupee. That night, he curled up on the bench and made a promise to himself. One day, I will buy 100 samosas, and I will never be hungry again. He didn't know how, he just knew he would. The next years were a blur of rejection. He applied for a job at a tea stall. Too young, come back when you're older. He applied at a garment shop. No experience, no job. He tried to become a helper at a construction site. The foreman laughed. "You're smaller than the bricks, boy. Go home." Ramesh did the only thing he could. He survived. He washed dishes for leftover food. He slept in temple corridors. He wore clothes others threw away. One evening, soaked in monsoon rain, shivering with fever, he sat against a wall and thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I should give up. But then he remembered the train station, the empty pockets, the hunger, the promise. "No," he whispered to the rain, "not yet." A small crack opened when Ramesh was 15. A chaiwala, old and tired, needed someone to serve customers. He didn't care about experience, he just needed hands that worked. "Can you start tomorrow?" he asked. Ramesh cried that night, not from sadness, from hope. He worked harder than anyone. He arrived earliest, left latest, learned everything. How to make the perfect cup, how to remember regular customers' orders, how to save every rupee possible. After 2 years, he had saved enough to buy his own cart, a tiny thing, barely big enough for 2 pots, but it was his. He named it First Step. Years passed. The cart became a small shop. The shop became a bigger shop. The bigger shop became 2 shops. Ramesh never forgot where he came from. He hired boys who reminded him of himself, orphans, runaways, kids with nothing. He paid them fairly, he taught them everything. "Your past does not decide your future," he told them, "only your next step does." By 30, Ramesh owned a chain of tea shops across 3 cities. By 40, he was known as the man who built an empire from zero. But the moment that defined him came one evening, decades after that train station night. A reporter asked him, "Sir, what's the secret to your success?" Ramesh was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. "Come with me." He took the reporter to the old train station, the same bench where he had slept as a boy. He sat down on it, patting the cold stone. "Here," he said, "this is where I started." The reporter looked confused. "But this is just a bench." Ramesh nodded. "To you, yes. To me, it's where I learned that zero is not an ending, it's a beginning." He reached into his bag and pulled out a packet, 100 samosas, still warm. He made a promise here, that one day I would buy 100 samosas and never be hungry again. He began distributing them to the street children who now gathered around, the ones who reminded him of himself. The reporter watched, tears in her eyes. "Sir," she whispered, "you didn't just buy samosas, you bought hope." Ramesh smiled, the same smile he had as a boy, but different now, wiser, warmer, full of light. "Zero is just a number," he said. "What matters is what you add to it." Ramesh's story is not about luck, it's not about talent, it's not about being in the right place at the right time. It's about refusing to let your beginning define your end. He started with nothing. No money, no family, no education, no connections. Everything was against him. Every door closed, every voice said no, but he kept going. one step at a time, one day at a time, one rejection at a time. And eventually, the steps added up, the days added up, the rejections became lessons. Your starting point does not determine your destination. 0 is just a number, a blank page, an empty canvas, a new beginning. What matters is what you choose to write, to paint, to build. You can start with nothing and win in life, not because the world is fair, but because you refuse to stop. If Ramesh's story inspired you to keep going no matter where you start, subscribe to Life Lessons Daily for more stories of ordinary people achieving extraordinary things. Click the bell for daily motivation to turn your 0 to hero. In the comments, share what 0 are you starting from right now and what's your first step. Your story might inspire someone else to begin.